the regular season is over and the playoffs have begun if you're playing minor league baseball. And today we're taking a look at the playoff preview for baseball's, well, I guess minor leagues. And so I think a lot of people probably don't even realize that minor league baseball has playoffs in a championship. We're actually going to get a two-team league in AAA playing off in a one-game final soon coming up here, which I just think is really interesting because most people don't really look at, like, I think minor league baseball to them isn't that where all the guys get called up in September and then it's over?
Right, and if you've had a good season, all along, and you get to the end of the season, and your parent club needs one of your players, they're really not going to care about the fact that you're chasing a AAA championship or whatnot.
They still play these games, and there are some storylines going into some of them because you have to realize there's a lot for all the guys that are getting called up in September that are going to be on a major league roster looking to either show their stuff as a young guy or maybe contribute to a playoff run. There's a whole lot of guys that were their teammates that are still in AAA playing for something because they love the game of baseball. And you're going to see a lot of that kind of play out over here over the course of the next week as you actually have series coming up, I think starting tomorrow, which would be Tuesday.
Right. So for us, so this is dropping Thursday. So by Thursday, all of the series that take place this week, and there'll be series in the Pacific Coast League and the International League at AAA, and the same thing in AA. You'll have series there as well. They, will start Tuesday and have best of 3 game series that will end no later than Thursday. And now, in the case of the AAA leagues, and for some strange reason, the Pacific Coast League, which has been around for forever, right? It used to be sort of like the West Coast major leagues before the baseball expanded out there because people couldn't even, get across the country to play games on the East Coast. They're going to play the International League's champion after this 3 games best of 3 is over before both leagues in a 1-game winner take all this Saturday, the 28th. And I'm sure, forget about the major leagues and pennant races and all this stuff. You're going to want to find that game. Who knows where it might be, though.
Right. And you get some really fun team matchups here because you have the Astro affiliates in the Pacific Coast League, the Sugarland Space Cowboys, which just really a fantastic name of a team, is playing the Arizona Diamondbacks affiliates, the Reno Aces, in the PCL Championship, which, I mean, Reno Aces, like, I get what they're going for because clearly it's like a gambling card thing riff, but the Sugarland Space Cowboys kind of just blow them out of the water in terms of cool team names.
And we'll have a lot of cool names because I think that's sometimes some of the most interesting things for the non-everyday minor league baseball fan, just to read the names of these teams. Like, because we as Met fans, they had a
Columbus
contest
Clippers
a couple of years ago to name the Binghamton AA affiliate for the Mets, which they were the Binghamton Mets. That's okay. That's not very.
That's kind of boring.
So they decided to have a contest, and what they came up with was the Rumble Ponies.
Which is a great fun, and that's why you end up things with, like, in the international league, the Columbus Clippers, who are a Guardians affiliate, who aren't very, fun in terms of how they name their team.
Well, they've been around forever, the Clippers. So.
Right, but they're not nearly as fun as the Omaha Storm Chasers, which are the Royals affiliates. I know, I much like envisioning the team of baseball players all piling into the SUV and chasing after the tornadoes after the game, going for a full Twister thing.
The Clippers were, for the longest time, I know, and you may not know this, they were the Yankees AAA affiliate. And so what's interesting about these teams is that they not necessarily always with the same parent club. And we've seen it happen a bunch of times where a team that was in one, all of a sudden the affiliation changed and a new major league club. And so what happens in that situation is the players change too, right, from one year to the next, because no longer are they let's say, remember the Rockies had the New Haven Ravens, in Connecticut, and all of a sudden it was taken over by the Twins, all new players, right? You're not going to have any Rocky prospects on the New Haven Ravens.
Well, and I think that kind of speaks to something that's interesting about minor league baseball in that you really have 2 extremely distinct groups of people paying attention to it. You have the fans of the major league teams that are paying attention to minor league baseball purely as there are young prospects there that might play for the team I watch. But just as you were kind of speaking there, and that, like, affiliates change around, if you're someone that lives in Birmingham, and you're watching the Binghamton, and you're watching the Rumble Ponies. If the Mets trade away that franchise and they pick up some other affiliate and some other team keeps in there, you're going to still be a fan of the Rumble Ponies or whatever their name is, but you're not going to be watching those guys go up to the Mets anymore. So I think if you're somebody in that town, you're much more a fan of the team than the franchise, which I think is just very interesting because the fans of the franchise don't actually get to watch them compete at full strength a lot of the time, like we were talking about earlier.
And one of the things about being a minor league fan is when your players that you watched at AA, AAA, whatever it would be, they get to the major leagues because you're like, I knew him when, I watched him come up and, slog through the minor leagues. And you kind of feel a sense of ownership for that player because you actually followed them and watched them, maybe even watched them play a few times. But we also have, go ahead.
I think that's a really good point because we all love the homegrown story. And if you're a fan of the major leagues and you love watching the homegrown players come up and power your team to a championship, doesn't that feel even better if you were following all of their journeys through the minor leagues? So you're like, no, I was watching that kid when he was 19 playing single A ball, and now he's 23 playing for my team in the majors. It's even more awesome if you're closely, following it.
And what's happening now, and I noticed myself this year because I'm such a baseball nerd, that when the Mets weren't playing a local market game on the local market, station, they would have maybe a AA game or even a AAA game that you could watch. So I watched some Rumble Ponies games. I saw that park a few times this summer, and you'd see a couple of players that you knew of in the organization because you're a fan of the team, and you actually got to watch them play in those games. That never really happened before, right? I mean, I'm not driving to Syracuse to go to watch the Mets play there, nor am I driving to Binghamton for that matter.
I think that's one of the best ways Major League Baseball can increase interest in these minor league affiliates is just put them on in a place that's easy and available to watch. But, the Mets aren't playing, broadcast a Rumble Pony game. Why not? Let's put it this way. There's nothing that you're going to put on that network that's going to be more enticing to somebody that would otherwise be watching the team if they were on. It's like there's only so many amazing Met finishes I can watch. I've seen them all once already. I probably actually watched the game.
And like James Earl Jones said when he was playing Terry Mann in Field of Dreams, people will watch.
Right. If you build if you build it, people will come. If you put the minor league baseball on TV, people will start watching. You look at, and for people that don't think it's true, if you need a further example of that, look over at Europe and all of their soccer leagues. Yes, the Premier League is the Premier League. That's the one that the most money is being pumped into. But tons and tons of fans are way more passionate about their local organizations and teams because they're a part of that community. And I think Major League Baseball can more strongly push their minor league baseball franchises in that way and develop these fan bases. And that, it is kind of lame that if you're somebody that's playing for the AAA championship, I don't think that game is going to be broadcast on MLB Network on Sunday or on Saturday. And it probably should be.
I wonder if it is actually. It's a great question. And the other thing about minor league baseball is the attendance is just, let's face it, they're not getting a ton of people showing up at these minor league games. If you got 3,000 or 4,000 people at a minor league game most of the time, that's a pretty big crowd for a lot of these teams.
And they did broadcast it last year on the MLB Network.
Yeah, I thought they might.
You would hope they do it again because to me, that is a really good way to broadcast these players. And, for some of these guys that might not ever make a major league, they might not ever be on a major league roster. That could be their big chance. And why wouldn't you want it for these guys that earned it by being the best team in their division over the course of a minor league season?
At the same time, like we always say about minor leagues, right? There's a couple of stars probably on each minor league team that have a chance to play Major League Baseball, and you see them come up through the ranks usually pretty quickly. Aside from that, you have the other guys on the team who are applying their trade, getting paid to play professional baseball without really a snowball's chance of playing at the next level.
Right. And it's interesting because I think that goes, I hate going back to the soccer comparison here, but I think it does have something to do with how we as Americans look at sports in that anything that isn't it's even in the names, anything that isn't the major leagues is the minor leagues. You're inherently saying it's inferior. This is an inferior product with inferior players. I don't care as much. And so I think when you set up everybody from that perspective, it's not that surprising that everything sort of centers around Major League Baseball. And we look at it as three guys on each team actually matter and nobody else means anything. When in reality, those are all really good baseball players. They're just not made, they're not, first division guys, but we call it the major leagues. And if you're not there, you're not anybody.
And the whole minor league system is the brainchild of Branch Rickey, who was the first to really do this farm type system, because before that you basically could go try to wildcat sign a player, but you didn't have places where you could go. You had no way to scout them effectively through having teams that you would follow. It was all wildcat kind of stuff and
It was even worse back then because you also ran into the situation as like, okay, yeah, we see this 19-year-old kid. He looks really good. Do I toss him on my major league roster with all of these grown men who are going to resent the crap out of him? Or do I put him on some other team away from them so we can get some practice in, and then when he's ready, I can bring him up?
And you didn't really know how old they were a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we still have that problem with some guys. I think the Mets traded for Huascar Brazoban, I believe is how you pronounce his first name.
Huascar, yeah.
We don't really know how old he is. I think he's like in his mid to late 30s, but we're really not sure. The guy still throws 100, so it doesn't matter. But
now the rumors that Bartolo Colon was 75 years old when he pitched for the Mets at the end of his career
greatly exaggerated. He was only 54.
So I think the idea that these teams finished their season. So some of the leagues have already finished their season, and I was surprised that's in the rookie league that was done in the summertime. So
rookie leagues have always finished earliest. They've always been sort of the shortest leagues. And, it's interesting because they don't even pretend those are anything other than minor league, like major league, stomping grounds, because they don't even have fun names. They're just the ACL, whatever that team is.
Right, so you have the Arizona Complex League and the Florida Complex League, which ostensibly is an outgrowth of spring training, right? That's where things come from. And then there's something that I wasn't really that familiar with, because I'm familiar with winter leagues in baseball, but I didn't realize that Major League Baseball and in 1985 sort of backed the summer league in the Dominican Republic, and it's affiliated with Major League Baseball. So with minor league baseball, I should say.
Teams, if you don't realize this, like the Mets have two different Dominican summer league teams that they field. So there are a ton of people playing baseball in those summer leagues down there.
And the minor league success or failure, like, really has no bearing on the major league team. Well, let's look at it. The Arizona Diamondbacks lost to the Dodgers in the championship of the Arizona Complex League. Okay, that doesn't mean the Dodgers are going to lose to the Diamondbacks. And the Tigers, yay, they won 2-0 over the Pirates in the Florida Complex League. Okay.
But how good your minor league affiliates are, and one, teams don't necessarily manage in the minor leagues based around winning and losing games in the same way. Guys are there to get work. And so as a result, they're going to manage differently than if it was just purely about winning and losing the game. You might leave a young kid in a game that you would otherwise take a pitcher out of if it was just about winning, because you're like, want to see how the kid handles being in adversity here. Or you might go, wow, this guy's pitching amazing tonight. He's mowed down, he's got 15 in a row through the first 5 innings and he's thrown 65 pitches. Well, we had him on a 65 pitch limit today, so he's out of the game. We're going to put in some other guy now. And that happens all the time there. So it's just not the same.
And organizationally, you have a situation where you might send one of your star players back to the minor leagues for a rehab start, and all of a sudden, the team is trying to win the game, I guess, except that's not what that game is about. That's about Max Scherzer starting a game up in Hartford, as he did last year for the Mets, or the Rumble Ponies, I should say, and how many people got into the park and went there and saw that, and who cares about the result of the game itself? So it's a little weird to me, I think, sometimes, that they even have these championships when really the function, as you pointed out, of the league is really to develop the players so they can help the major league club.
But having something to play for and having the championship at least allows the teams to structure their guys around like, hey, these games do matter. You are playing for something. And I'm sure that even if it's not much, you probably do get a bonus as a player and as a team if you do manage to win the minor league championship. It would be hard for me to believe they're not getting a little something extra. Not much, probably, but something.
in the American Summer League, by the way, the Red Sox beat the Angels 2-1. And so I wonder if all those teams, the Diamondbacks and whatnot, at these Florida Complex League and Arizona, do they get a trophy? And if they do get trophies, do they save those trophies and put it on the mantle?
Well, it is, and you were talking before about how like team performance in the minor leagues doesn't really indicate anything about major league success. No Met affiliate this year finished above 500.
Right.
Right, because one, they brought up it's not like they don't have good young players in their system. They brought some of them up, but minor league success right there, you're saying they're not focused on winning the game necessarily. Some teams are going to win more games than others because the players play well, but the management approach to the game, the way they're looking at it, is about development, not championships.
Right.
Because they're trying to win championships at the major league level.
We're trying to win each individual game, but we're not trying to win the league necessarily if it's going to hurt our chances at the next level.
And so, I mean, I think we talked a lot about, AAA and what's going on there, but there's still a lot of championships and postseason happening even at like the lower levels, right?
Right. So there's starting the single A leagues, and they are done now. Right, You've got the California League and the Carolina League. And what I really like about the Carolina League has been around for a long time, right, in different forms. And that league, the Fredericksburg, Maryland Nationals, of course, they're known locally as the Fred Nats, and I thought that was hilarious. That's
Fred Nats.
They won the title this year over the Kannapolis. That's spelled Kannapolis. I've never heard of Kannapolis. I can't tell you where the heck that is.
I was going to guess Minneapolis.
What's that?
I was going to guess Minneapolis.
Kannapolis Cannonballers. Well, it's in the Carolina League, so it's somewhere down in the South.
True.
Here's the shocker. That is a White Sox affiliate. So let's think about this. In the Carolina League, the Nationals affiliate won the title over the White Sox affiliate. So in a horrible year for the White Sox, is that something that you can go, well, we did win, make it to the final of the Carolina League?
You think, as a fan of your team, I think as a White Sox fan, there's really no silver linings on this season. But at most you can hope, okay, we probably have at least one or two young guys in the system that are going to become good players. That's what you're hoping for when you see something like that.
And the Mariners are hoping that too, because their California League single A affiliate, the Modesto Nuts, and what a great name, the Modesto. I'm a nut.
But there's a lot of fun marketing you can do with that. A lot more fun marketing than who they won the title over, which was the Lake Elsinore store.
Lake Elsinore is a pretty remote place in Southern California, and that's the Padres affiliate.
That's the only reason you know what that place is because I've never even heard of it. I'm like, it just sounds like you're naming them after a random lake somewhere in California.
No, that's it. And that's their second California League title in a row. And I didn't look, and I should have before we recorded. I wonder how many of the same players were on the Nuts last year when they won the championship, and then this year, because I bet you it's probably 75% different people.
Right, you would assume that it's largely a completely new cast of characters, just because in single A especially, guys are either going to stick around or they're going to get rid of them. Because unlike the higher levels where you need a certain baseline of performance from everybody else on the team, in single A you're just going to rotate through whatever young guys you can find that might have a chance.
So you have single A, and then you have high A, which is a better quality of baseball and a more experienced most of the time.
That just feels that just feels so silly to me. We're going to have A and then high
A, and so there's the Midwest League and the Northern League. And the Midwest League had the Lake County Captains, which is the Guardians affiliate, beat the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, the Brewers affiliate, 2-1 in the title game, in the title tilts last week.
Now, I have to ask this because if we go over to the Northern League in High A, we run into a problem here because the Rockies affiliate is called the Spokane Indians,
and they always have been called the Spokane Indians. And yes, I was shocked to see that they had changed
but like, I guess it's like, shouldn't we also have a problem with the Blue Jays affiliates who was beaten by the Indians, who are just the Vancouver Canadians? That just feels lazy from the Blue Jays there. Like, yes, they are Canadians, they all live in Canada.
But the Rockies get a championship, even though it's at the high A level. So a bad season with the Rockies, but at least organizationally, someplace they had some success.
Right. And that's what you're seeing is at least a lot. And then you might say that because when you go up to AAA, when you go up to AA, the White Sox managed to get themselves, well, they're going to be playing for another minor league championship, playing the Tampa Bay Montgomery affiliate in a best of three starting on Tuesday.
Right. So that is the Battle of Alabama, right? So I don't know about natural rivalries between Montgomery and Birmingham, but you tend to think that I guess there's some people there who want to beat the other city or something like that. I don't know. And yeah, and they have, and I should have done the names of those teams because the Eastern League also playing this week at the same time, same 3 days. The Erie, Pennsylvania Seawolves.
Which now I remember the Seawolves because when I played in Little League, the way we had it structured is that like the youngest kids doing when they were starting off pitching for the first time, now the kids are pitching, you would get all the minor league teams. And I'm pretty sure the Seawolves were one of the available teams that you could get, and everybody wanted to be them because that's the best. Like, do I want to be a Raven? No, I want to be a Seawolf. That sounds cool.
So they're going to play the Yankees affiliate, the Somerset Patriots, which played not too far from here. And so what I thought about that was, so Erie, Pennsylvania, I guess it's near the lake. So we calling the Seawolves because it's near the Lake Erie. There's no sea.
Well, I mean, maybe they crawl out of Lake Erie or something.
We don't understand what a lake is versus a sea. We had the Lake County captains, but the Seawolves.
Well, I'm just saying the Erie Lake Wolves just doesn't sound quite as good as the Sea Wolves.
Oh, it would be
Lake
more
Wolves,
accurate, though.
More accurate, less cool.
So, and again, what I think was fun about kind of going through all these things is this. We talked about this in a prior podcast, and I should have the number, but it was a couple of years ago. We talked about the way Major League Baseball changed minor league baseball by slicing out 40 of the 160 teams or so, affiliation-wise. And now they're down to 120, and this is your results of all of your affiliated minor league teams with Major League Baseball.
And I do think it's interesting that with the reduction of the number of overall teams in minor league baseball, I have to imagine the overall level of minor league baseball has gone up. You need less roster fillers, so you've got a higher overall concentration of talent because you just simply need less guys to fill out all the teams. The total number of really major league ready or major league potential prospects probably hasn't shifted that much, but you've got less spots for them. So there are more teams with more guys that are actually vying for major league roster spots one day than a whole lot of guys that are there just to sort of give them opponents to play against.
And then you have the unpaid minor league, otherwise known as the NCAA, which,
and all the independent leagues, though, I don't think those quite fit the same.
NIL, at least, college players have a chance of getting paid money that they've not gotten before. But I've always felt that, that's a free ride for Major League Baseball, and they're milking that for everything they can.
And I got to think that with the success of guys like Paul Skeens coming directly out of college into the major leagues, which we've talked about before, and having success, and as more guys do that, the more minor league baseball is going to have to, or Major League Baseball is going to have to reckon with using college baseball as their minor league system. Because the NBA and the college football and the NFL have already kind of done that. How well they do it is up for debate, but they've at least reckoned with that issue where Major League Baseball is kind of like, well, if we pretend it's not happening, no one can say anything to us about it.
And let's do this. Let's see if we can't get a minor league championship player to come on the podcast and talk about what the experience was like. Like, did you celebrate? Did you guys have a champagne shower after you won the AA championship?
I think we might have some Saturday viewing appointments to watch and just see what actually goes on that day.
I think you're right.